Television was burgeoning at that point. It was so exciting. There were all these shows made rounds and got into a lot of television shows, early ones. Back then the lights were exceedingly hot and bright, and you wore strange makeup, black lipstick, and you couldn't wear white or black. You wore a lot of blue. And you would change clothes right behind the flats, right behind the sets. You would change your costumes very quickly, and you didn't care who saw you. You had to get it over with. Big cameras around and big lights and cables on the floor. And yeah, it was always that way in the beginning. But it was all live then, and scary. There were so many murder mysteries around, and I did a lot of them, and eventually I had publicity as the most murdered girl on television. It really was, could be a bit chaotic if you hadn't had enough rehearsal, and I don't remember rehearsing weeks and weeks for anything. These things went on quickly. You tried to get in as much rehearsal as you could so that you knew what you were doing when that red light came on. Real theater folks look down their nose at television, this crummy upstart. Then when some of those people got on, they didn't think it was so bad. But it was considered a stepchild, particularly commercials. If you did the commercials, oh wow, you weren't supposed to do them at all. That was, sort of a step down from being on the actual show. You didn't really want to do the commercials. By 51, I met Mr. Gleason's whole group. They had two shows, Cavalcade of Stars starring Jackie Gleason, and they had Cavalcade of Bands. One day, my roommate, Diana Herbert, got a phone call from Joe Cates, and he wanted Diana to come in like the next day or whatever and do a live Clorets commercial. And she said, I'm working, I got a job, can't do it. She said, I'll send Joyce, Joyce will do it. He said, no, Joyce is too tall for the guy in the commercial. She said, Joyce will wear flats. And she said, okay, send Joyce in. So I went in and did the Clorets commercial, and then a few weeks later, Joe Cates is on the phone, and he says, we're going to repeat that Clorets commercial on our other show. And he said, have you seen our Cavalcade of Stars starring Jackie Gleason? I said, no, I don't even have a television set. Well, Jackie has written, with the writers, a serious sketch, and we got to cast it, and, well, you're young, but come on, dress old and come in and read for Harry Crane and Walter Stone and Marvin Marks. And I did the sketch opposite Jackie. He was a vaudevillian in a tank town, and this lady comes into his shabby dressing room, and they chat, and this was the woman he should have married years ago and didn't. It was just a short sketch, so I don't remember too much about it. But it was serious, and here we were doing it on a comedy show with very little rehearsal, because as everyone knows by now, Mr. Gleason does not like to rehearse. A few weeks later, again, Joe Cates is on the phone, and he asked me, had I seen something they were doing called the Honeymooners? And I said, no, I don't know what that is. And he said, well, it's a bus driver, and Jackie's a bus driver, and Pert Kelton is the wife, Alice Cramden, and we've written in a sewer worker. Art Carney's playing the sewer worker. He's played that a few times, and now they've written a wife called Trixie for the sewer worker, and Mr. Gleason said, get me that serious actress. So he didn't even remember my name, but he somehow knew I would be Trixie. The Nortons had a much nicer apartment, if you remember. Whenever we came up to the Nortons' apartment, it looked much better than the one downstairs. And Jackie wanted the Cramden's apartment to look very poor and shabby. And we were told that that's the way Jackie grew up in Brooklyn. This is the way his Coldwater flat looked with his mother and the father who absconded when Jackie was quite young. And we were told that, so I guess it's true. People would send in curtains for the window, but they were never put up. Then we'd go to Channel 2, to CBS the next year, and we have Audrey Meadows playing Alice Cramden. Pert Kelton was not allowed to go with us, because what I heard was that she was listed in red channels, and CBS was very tough at that time. Anyone blacklisted did not do a CBS show. He played many characters. He had Joe the bartender, and he had the poor soul, and he had Reginald Van Gleason III. He played all these characters, but slowly we could all see that the Honeymooners was becoming more popular than those other skits, so it became longer and longer. Eventually we were doing 45-minute Honeymooners, And then the season of 1955, 56. He did not do the hour show. He did just a half-hour show that was the Honeymooners, and we did 39 half hours that year, and those are the ones they now call the Classic 39. We did them on a brand new thing, the Mont Electronicam, let me say it, Electronicam system, which was a forerunner of tape. But we still worked live in front of an audience, and we now moved over to the Adelphi Theater, and we did it, straight through. I don't remember it, but they tell me at the 15-minute spot, the cameras had to be changed, or reloaded, had to be reloaded. But it was very brief, and then we just continued. Buick wanted us to do a second year, and Jackie would not do it because he said the scripts are not good enough. We can't get them funny enough and good enough to do another whole year of 39, So we went back. The final year, 56, 57, we were a one-hour show again. Well, at first I did this little serious sketch with him, and he seemed kind of morose, but then the part was like that. And then falling into the Honeymooners thing, he seemed jolly enough some days, and other days he'd be in a black Irish mood. But you didn't see much of him because he said comedy is not funny if it's over-rehearsed. And we sure weren't over-rehearsed. We just rehearsed a few times, and there we were, live on television. Behind the scenes, Jackie was running everything. Everyone deferred to him for everything. And he was always right, He wasn't a schooled man, but he instinctively knew what was right theatrically. We'd get our scripts delivered to our apartments on Thursday night, shoved under our doors or something, and we'd go into the office in the Park Sheraton Hotel on Friday and get the changes that Jackie had made overnight. And we'd read through it with Jack Hurdle, the producer, and try to study it a little, but we didn't see Jackie until Saturday on stage of CBS Studio 50, which is now called the Ed Sullivan Theater on Broadway. Audrey was amazed at this small amount of rehearsal. She says she was in tears in the first show. I didn't see her crying, but she says she was in tears, but she got through it because Audrey's very smart. And Audrey learns everybody's words in a script. And then we would all run, after we had this one rehearsal with Jackie on Saturday afternoon, maybe once in a while a second rehearsal, but mainly just once, we'd all run up to Audrey's dressing room, and her manager would read in Jackie's words, and that would help everybody a great deal to run it a number of times that way. She could get Jackie back on track if he ever went off. Once in a while he did, because as I said, we had very few rehearsals, but she would learn everybody's words in the script, and she could get things back. Now, Audrey used to say, try and stand next to Jackie, because that's where the camera will be. Nerves were very high, yes. And then people who came on just for that week were not used to this fast pace. I saw an actor vomit in the wings once from nerves. It was scary. I don't know how Art and Audrey did it. They had so many lines with him, and they carried the whole thing. I don't think that Mr. Gleason would have gotten as far as he did without Art Carney. Art's a genius. Art Carney is wonderful. He's a very shy, quiet man. You don't get to know Art right away at all, or ever maybe. He's not as expansive as Jackie. The assistant director would let us know if we were long or short. And I think there's one of those Classic 39 that doesn't really end correctly. I believe there is one that didn't quite finish. And then there are several where he stretched. And he just, the roller skating one, we stretched at the end, the four of us sitting around the table in their crummy apartment. And talking about having skated, and then he starts talking about, oh, those are the old days when we went to this ballroom and that ballroom, and so he and Art were good. They just pulled it out. One that he had in another skit, I forget which one, where the door didn't open, and after jiggling it a few times, he came in through the window. Said there's more than one way to skin a cat. We even did about a 3-week stint at the Paramount Theater. We did one of the sketches. I forget which one now it was, but it was one I was in, because I know I was at the theater all day, because we did it 4 times between the movie. We were so popular that we had to do 2 or 3 weeks at the Paramount Theater and still do our Saturday night show. They had police escorts on Saturday for us to get us to the theater. Between being on stage at the Paramount, we had to run and do our show. I was busy being a mother and a wife, and I didn't want to go to Florida. He didn't ask me anyway. He put his longtime friend Jane Keane in the role, and so he put her in it, which was fine by me. I would not have gone to Florida. No, you had to stay down there. I mean, he was maybe into more rehearsals or something, but yeah, because he was doing those one-hour musical Honeymooners. We had done them. He repeated them. We had done them, and that was tough work. The fan mail I get says that we just absolutely love the show. We've always loved it. It's so much better than what's on today because it's clean and it's funny. And that's what Jackie always said. It had to be clean and it had to be funny. The people copied us. All in the Family was, in a way, a bit of a copy. A few years ago, I had the privilege of meeting Carroll O'Connor, and we chatted, and he said, well, you know, I asked Jackie about before I did this, and Jackie said, go ahead, go to it, go for it. Well, the Flintstones is a copy, for heaven's sake. Yeah, that really is. Beginning of '85, because it was very cold, and all of a sudden we were called to, you must come to this function that Jackie's putting on at 21. And we didn't quite know what it was. We'd heard there was something happening with old shows. And Jackie announced that through modern technology, he and Viacom had taken all these old kinescopes and turned them into new half-hour shows. And it was all very exciting. Right away, Audrey said, well, new shows, gotta pay us for new shows. So our agents all went to work on that. Between 18 and 34, I did a lot of work, and I just wanted to get home each night. Let's get this over with. I want to be home with my baby and my husband. And so I did a few commercials and things like that. But I didn't want to do anything that was extended, and I didn't have to, so it just sort of happened. And the years went by rather quickly.